This is it. Well, sort of. This is a prototype of the Ranger Super Duty that we've been teased for months. Now, we are getting a look at it today at the Ford Design Studio. And what we want to find out is why those headline numbers stand out. Built in the same factory as the normal Ranger, the Super Duty does more than just impress. It rewrites the capability and expectations for what you can tow with a standard size double cab ute. Now, it's headlined by a 4.5 ton tow capacity, but it's the GCM and GVM that really stand out. So we'll start there. Anyone that owns or has looked at modern double cab utes for towing knows that most have gross combined masses around 6,000 kilos, which when you subtract their full brake towing capacity and curb weights from, leave most with very little payload. When you combine some have only a few hundred kilos of payload left, not enough for the family and dog. Now, we've got a really good article on modern double cab utes that includes a table of all their weight breakdowns. We'll pin that as a top comment below. The Super Duty should change this. We're guessing, but it is looking likely that the Super Duty as a double cab with a tub will have a curb weight around 2,650 kilos. Meaning even with a 4,500 kilo van in tow, you should be left with around 850 kilos of payload. But if you're towing a 3.5 ton van, you should still be able to keep the near 2 ton payload, which is fantastic for doing things like putting a boat on the top, building a canopy with a full rooftop tent and a full build out in the back, and still taking the family and the dog on holiday. But I can hear you screaming, should a standard size Ranger be towing 4.5 tons, or should it have an 8,000 kilo GCM? Well, there's actually a lot that's changed, so let's get into some detail. It runs massive brakes bigger than the Ranger Raptor. It has new axles, new control arms, and 8 lug wheels, and high load rated 33-inch tires. Now under the back, it has a diff from a truck. It has Pro Trailer Backup, a system that takes the guessing out of reversing, and the mirrors are bigger than a typical Ranger, but they still look a little narrow to tow a 2.5 meter wide van, so you probably want to fit some MSA or Clearview mirrors. It has an up-rated cooling system with a 25% more powerful fan, plus a new transfer case, but there are two things that really jump out to me, and that is the smart hitch and scales built in around the Ranger Super Duty. Smart hitch is amazing for us van people. You dial in the weight of your van, and when you hook up, it'll measure the ball weight and give you an indication if you need to move some weight front or back in the trailer to set the optimum ball weight. That just blows my mind, and from a safety point of view, that should be standard on all vehicles. And then there are scales. At each corner of the Super Duty are sensors that tell you what your GVM is. For anyone looking to make use of the big payload, this is fantastic. I love this stuff, but I can hear you asking what powers the Super Duty and will it pull a 4.5 ton van up a hill in a headwind on a hot day? Now, they've given us some details, but not all. The Super Duty will come with a 3-litre V6 codenamed Lion. It's a revised version of what is already available in the Ranger V6, with a focus on torque and cooling under load. So we know the V6 in the Ranger Sport has 600 Newton meters from 1750 RPM. Now I expect for the Super Duty that's either going to come up a little bit, or perhaps the torque band will just widen a touch. The fuel tank is 130 litres, which is great because I expect the Super Duty will use in the region of 20 litres per 100 towing a full body off-road van. So you should still comfortably get over 600 k's to a tank. Now the cooling system has been upgraded with a 25% larger fan and a more open front grille, and there is a manual option for the DPF system, handy if you're driving into tall grass areas. Now the gearbox is the same 10R80 10-speed, and behind it is a new transfer case capable of handling more torque. And the brakes are bigger than a Raptor's, which is why the Super Duty runs on 18-inch wheels. There is so much more to the Super Duty story that we can't cover here. It has a reinforced chassis, and there is serious underbody protection, an increase to the weighting capability with raised breathers, and as standard, with the new suspension and wheels, it has a wider track to offset its near 2 meter tall unladen height. And the interior, well, it's like any Ranger, so it's as good as it gets with a few extra things added, like a 6-way auxiliary panel and engineered mounting point for a second screen or navigator. And I really like how it comes with vinyl floors, which are easy to keep clean. But what really stands out are those numbers. To get anywhere close, you had to buy a US truck and still modify it, or spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a Land Cruiser. To get the same capability you can get now from a Ford dealership.